Hello, this is Conservative to America. I'm your host, Cole Holcomb, giving you news from the best perspective, the conservative perspective. Today I am joined by a close friend of mine, Luke Holliday, who will give insight on the news stories of the day. Luke, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thank you, Cole, for having me today. It's good to be here.
Oh, no problem. Now, let's go to the first story, the Epstein Files. Today in the United States House, the Epstein Files passed with a vote of 457 to 1. To 1.
Wow.
And that's insane. Imagine being that one guy who voted against it, and you got to go back home and tell your constituents, "I swear I'm not on the list. I'm not on the list. I didn't do anything." You throw your hands up in the air, and you're like, "Nope, nope, I'm all good. I'm all good. I did nothing wrong." quite frank, quite frankly, I did nothing wrong, and that's what you go home and you say. And anyways, though, and it's really kind of um hilarious though that one guy who didn't vote for it. I have yet to read his motives. If I figure them out, I'll bring them up on tomorrow's show. But that one guy not voting for it is kind of insane. Luke, what's your opinion on this?
I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's for one thing, it's really like suspicious. Like there's one guy that didn't vote for these files to come out. I mean, that guy doesn't look very good right now. I'll tell you that. Um, but maybe he's proud of it. Maybe he's proud of his vote. He's like, I'm gonna stick to this. Maybe he has a good reason for this. I don't know what that could be, but he has a good reason or something. But yeah, he's probably not feeling super good right now. Probably. I mean, he's yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Luke. Um, Now as we go on from here, uh, it's getting ready to it passed the Senate today also. That's a big moving stone. Unanimously passed the Senate. Republicans and Democrats joined hand in hand and said, we're going to send this on. We're finally going to release this to the American people. It is now making its way to the president's desk. President Trump said he's going to sign it. I am all for releasing the files. Luke, what's your opinion on it? Do you think the files should be released?
I think that it is. I think it is a good idea for these files to be released because they've been highly anticipated and people have been waiting for this and saying, when are the files going to get released? When are they going to get released? Um, but there's one factor that I would think would make it a bad idea for them to get released, and that is that the identities of the victims, they might not want their identity released because I'm sure they're in the files, and they don't want all the press, they don't want the press all up in their face, asking them. They don't want to relive all those memories, and they don't want to have people, coming them asking them a bunch of questions. And they also probably want their identities to be protected, like I said. So yeah, but on the other hand, him not releasing the files and maybe pushing them back and maybe getting things changed up to protect the victims a little bit more, the only thing wrong with that is it's going to make him look a little bit suspicious because it's a little bit sketchy because everyone's been saying, when is he going to release the files? This is weird. Why isn't he releasing the files? So if he just keeps pushing it back, it might not be a very good look for Donald Trump. But that's just my opinion.
So, Luke, in your opinion, which do you think would be better, releasing the files, like now, and like messing up those people? Well, I'm not gonna use the term messing up, but maybe letting their identities be known to the American people, or having Donald Trump painted in a bad spotlight, which could hurt Republicans come 2026 in the midterms. It could cause Democrats to take control of Congress, which, I mean, it's like pick your poison. Which one are you going to pick? Which one would you say?
Well, like I said, it could go both ways, but I think the morally right thing to do, if we're moving on from campaigns, we're moving on from like the look of different political parties. I think the morally right thing to do is maybe protect the victims of this a little bit more, protect their identities. I would say that that might be the better thing to do in this situation. It might not be the best idea for, re-election or a campaign or, how Donald Trump looks to the public eye, but I think that in a way it is the, morally correct thing, the correct action to take.
Yeah. Um, you're totally right. Uh, I would probably agree with you on this point, Luke. So we'll go ahead and close it out there on the Epstein Files. But let's move on to SNAP benefits. As I said on yesterday's show, the Trump administration is requiring all those on SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps, to reapply. This is to cut back on fraud. No matter how much the Democrats, which they're going to do this, but as they will try to paint it as if the Republicans are trying to take away food stamps from Grandma May, who is raising six of her grandchildren because her daughter's all drugged out and can't, raise little Johnny and Bethany anymore. But no matter how much they're going to try to paint it like that's who we're taking food stamps from, it's not. That's not who the Republicans are trying to take food stamps from. Um, they're trying to take food stamps from like your creepy Uncle Larry, who he mysteriously broke his back 20 years ago, and he can't work no more, but he makes $100,000 a year painting people's houses, and he only does it in cash. And he goes out and gets his stat benefits and his Medicaid. No, it's getting rid of people like your creepy Uncle Larry like that. Okay, so those who need food stamps, like single mothers, and as I said, Grandma May, like the Grandma Mays of the world, they will receive their SNAP benefits if they reapply. So it's not going after them. It's going after the people like the Uncle Larrys of the world who are going out and they're like, well, I need my SNAP benefits. I got to get my $250 worth of food a month. I mean, there are people who use and abuse the system at all costs, and they're going to do it. Those people, they should have to pay the crime for abusing the American people. You say, well, it's just the government. You can abuse the government, but let me tell you something. That's your tax dollars. At the beginning of it, it wasn't the government's. It was your tax dollars. It was your money that they took, and then Uncle Larry goes out and he can clearly work. He can go buy his own food, but he uses your money uh to go buy groceries. Okay, he used his money to go buy pack soda. He uses your money to go buy like pack soda and buy his Mountain Dew and
Bag of
buy
Doritos.
a bag of Doritos, his
Yeah.
Starbursts, stuff like that. His pint of ice cream a night. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, he goes and buys what 20 pan pizzas in the freezer section.
Right.
Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Something like
Um,
that.
but those those are the people who need to be removed uh, from SNAP benefits. Not the people like Grandma May. And those people are they're not going to be removed. Not like the single mothers. Those people aren't going to be removed. But the creepy Uncle Larrys, as I said, of the world, those who use and abuse the system, they will be removed. This is solely to keep freeloaders from ripping off the government. And here's some facts where you say, well, that creepy Uncle Larry, there's not very many of those. Actually, there are. Here's some facts where there are 186,000 deceased individuals receiving benefits. What does that mean? That means somebody else in their family is still like, keep raking in them cards for us, keep sending us that money. Yeah, send us that money. That's what they're like, okay? 186,000 individuals receiving SNAP benefits. Okay? There's a likelihood that one viewer or probably all of you have been in Walmart at the same time in the past month where there was somebody who was using deceased SNAP benefits, using deceased individuals SNAP benefits, using Grandpa Grandpa Jack who's been dead for 30 years SNAP benefits. Okay, I mean this is
It's
almost as
crazy.
bad as the fight of those people on Social Security who are like 190 years old. Um, but it's just crazy. They also found
It's
that 500,000 people receiving that there are 500,000 people receiving stat benefits in more than one state. That means that let's say somebody who lives in oh Florida, he runs over to Alabama and he gets his stat benefits. He lives over there in Pensacola and he runs across the border, state border, gets his SNAP benefits and comes on back across. Some guy who lives in Tennessee goes over to North Carolina, gets his SNAP benefits. Lives in New York, goes down to Pennsylvania, gets his SNAP benefits. It's insane that there are people who use and abuse the system. I don't support it, but man, the people who they were able to do this, I mean, you really got to think about it. You're like, I mean, I don't like applauding them for it. I will never support them doing this, but like it it's you have to in a way kind of be like, wow, that's kind of interesting that you were able to do that. That
Mm.
like
What you got to admit, what they're doing is smart.
yeah, you're right. If I was able to go get free groceries twice a month,
Right, yeah.
I'd be jumping all over in a legal way, not like
Right, yeah.
like stealing groceries from the
Mhm.
government. Uh, but
Right. You want to
anyways,
call them idiots, but
yeah,
I don't know if that's yeah, that might not be.
yeah,
They're actually smarter. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Maybe
a
we're
pretty
the
smart idea.
idiots. Maybe we're the
Yeah,
idiots.
right, yeah.
Nah. Law-abiding citizens. They're smart people. I'd like to say that. Um, but as I said yesterday, it's time that we clean up these federal programs to keep those who use and abuse the system from abusing the system. We will continue to follow this story as it progresses. Now let's move on to the Texas House redistricting. There's a major blow to Republicans today. A federal court has blocked the newly redrawn congressional map on the grounds that it appears to be unconstitutional. They claim that it's gerrymandering on the positions of racism by dividing them up by race. That is illegal. That is illegal. It's gone to the courts time and time again. That is illegal. It's not illegal, however, to divide it up based on political um, on like if they vote Republican or Democrat, and that is what the Republicans did. They split it up on whether it was Republicans or Democrats. It's not the Republicans' fault though that um, the Democrat districts have more minorities in them than what the Republican districts do. So in a way, it does look kind of sketchy, but it was Republican and Democrat. That's how they split up the districts. Um, this ruling, it's likely to be appealed. Um, but if it's not successful, seriously, we're going to be looking at the Democrats set up a thing where they can have 5 extra seats, in Congress, and the Republicans they don't get their extra seats. So bad news, trouble. There's a bad moon on the rise if this gets appealed and fails. So we will continue to follow this story as it progresses. Luke, what's your opinion on it?
Well, like you said, it has nothing whatsoever to do with racism or race at all. I mean, it's purely just dividing Democrats and Republicans and things like that. And they just happen to have more minorities in them, and I can see why people are like that's race. Well, actually, no, it's not racist at all. But Democrats and like liberals, not trying to stereotype, but a lot of these people, they see the littlest thing, they're like, that's racist, that's racist. It's like these are the same people that treat white people badly and say that you can't be racist to a white person. It's just it's so hard, it's so confusing, like but again, it has nothing to do with race. It's just but of course they're accusing them of racism, although that's not correct.
Yeah, because that's
But
what the
yeah,
Democrats do. That's what the
right, yeah,
Democrats do.
exactly, that's what I said. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they do.
yeah. Now let's go on. We're going to talk about the 50-year mortgage. Last week, President Trump caused a media frenzy after he floated the idea that the government should back the creation of a 50-year fixed mortgage. I just imagine right now that Dave Ramsey, he's pulling out his hair over this. Couldn't you? Don't you think that, Luke?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw this meme. It was uh, Babylon B, I think it was. And it was this funny meme. And it said like Dave Ramsey is in critical condition at the hospital after hearing about the 50-year mortgage plan. And I remember my grandma was talking about that, and she said, I was reading that and I saw Dave Ramsey in critical condition at the hospital. I got nervous. Then I realized. Then she said she realized it was a joke, and yeah, it was just hilarious. But yeah, I know it's a little bit insane.
Yeah, it really is. Um, I think that this is the worst idea for Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she said it, and I like the way what she said. She said it will ultimately reward the banks, mortgage lenders, and home builders while people pay far more in interest over time and die before they ever pay off their home. She's right. Um, she also said that they will be in debt forever, in debt for life. In reality, most people don't live in a house for 50 years. They buy and they sell. In reality, it's the equivalent of renting. just with a worse rate. Okay, you might as well just stick to renting if you take out a 50-year mortgage, because at least whenever you rent, somebody comes by and they cut the grass. You have somebody else who's manages the property. You don't have to do it. Whenever something is broken, the landlord comes by and fixes it. So I mean, you might as well just stick to renting in that case. A 50-year mortgage, what's that going to do? That will ruin our economy. It's going to just make Americans worse in debt. This is not the solving problem to how people in our generation think about it, Luke. Whenever we start to buy houses here in the next few years, and we look at it, it's going to be so hard. Right now, it's so hard to buy a house right now in this country. Um, it's
It's
sad.
it's it's going to be even worse
Yeah,
if we continue on with this 50-year mortgage plan. I mean, like you said, at this point, it's better just to rent, because like you said, at least someone's taking care of the home, and and it's of course not as much, and you can get more value and stuff. But also, what are the chances someone's going to live in a house for 50 years? What's the chance of that? Yeah.
yeah, you're totally right.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I just think this is going to backfire tremendously on Republicans.
Right.
Same thing with the tariffs right now. Donald Trump, he's talking about it's likely that the betting markets are showing that the tariffs that are right now in the Supreme Court, they're likely to get overturned. So Trump's tariffs will no longer be in power. Will be in. But the big thing in that is that Donald Trump right now, he's calling for $2,000 uh what do they call him? He's going to send $2,000 to all Americans who make um, under double the median income in your state. So I mean, I don't know. I don't like this idea. $2,000 given out cash. You think inflation's bad? Just wait till everybody gets 2 grand uh, floating around their pocket. It's not going to help. It's going to make it worse. The solution is never just to give people cash. I understand, yes, we taxed it out of people, but in the end, though, it's still going to cause inflation. Um, Bad news, bad news. There is a bad moon on the rise for uh, our country right now. There's bad moon on the rise. Currently, looking at it from right now, from right here where we're sitting, right from our point of view, looking out over what's going to happen in the future. There's a bad mood on the rise for the American economy. Look at what came out yesterday with the CEO of Oklahoma. What is it? Oklahoma beef. I think we covered it in yesterday's show on how beef prices is going to be through the roof, $10, and it's kind of a problem. President Trump's like, well, we can fix it. We can fix it. No, we can't, and it's not even Republicans' fault, but it's going to get blamed on Republicans because we're the party in power. But it's the fault of we have the smallest cattle herd in 70 years and yet the largest demand ever in American history. If you want to look into that, I recommend all of our viewers go and watch that show whenever you get done watching this one. But I mean, man, the United States economy, I know typically I'm like on here kind of like rallying on Republicans, being like Republicans are doing so great. Republicans are winning for America. We see great things getting ready to. I don't see it right now. In all honesty, I'm a Republican. I love what Donald Trump has been doing as president. I think that most of his ideas are going to work. There's some things I don't like. Do I like the tariffs? Do I like our foreign enemies paying us back, those who have taken advantage of us through the years? Yes. But do I like how it's hurting the American family? No. Do I like how the $2,000? Do I like Americans getting an extra $2,000 in their pocketbook? Of course. But I wish that it was through jobs and infrastructure and not through just checks that are written out by the federal government that we've made off of our tariffs. Okay.
Hmm.
Another thing too, that I would get on to the Trump. I don't like the 50-year mortgage. That's not solving the problem. That's just like putting like a I'm sorry. It's just like putting a band-aid on like a leaky pipe or something, It's going to fall off and it's not even the right tool to put on it, okay? It's like
Yeah.
putting a band-aid over a man bleeding out in the road cuz he got his bleeding out after he cut his leg off with the chainsaw, okay? It's like putting a band-aid on. Be like, "It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right." Okay? It nabs a little bit of it, but in the end,
Yeah.
it fizzles out. Everything's gone,
Right.
and that's going to happen in this country pretty soon. I mean, we got to turn it around. The Trump administration, you got to focus on the American pocketbook. If you want to win in 28, heck, if you want to win in 26, if you want to win in 2028, you got to focus right now. Number one, the American pocketbook. The American pocketbook is what matters. I get that people have been taking advantage of us for years. We need to start. I do believe that China needs to be attacked because they are an enemy of ours. China is an enemy of ours, of the United States. China is an enemy of the United States. I believe that they need to be that people need to go after China. That they should be tariffed like nobody's business. But people, there are some things that just don't need tariffed. I know they've been taking advantage of us, and it's terrible. But frankly, we can't afford it. The American family can't afford it. And whenever it comes down to getting payback or winning for the American family, I choose the American family every single time. I choose the American working man every single time. Because you know what? The American working man is really, in the end, who our elected officials are elected to represent. As a conservative, as a strong vocal advocate of the Republican Party, I say here today that these economic policies that have been put out this week, that have been put out in the last few weeks, they're not Republican policies. These are not what we know as Republican policies. Republican policies are physically conservative. They're conservative on economics. These these are these are socialism. But heck, if there was a Republican form of socialism, this is what it. I don't like it one bit. I think that there's a lot to continue to focus on. If there's anyone who maybe has a question on this or would like to, or would be interested maybe in informing our show of something that or a question that you have, feel free to email us at conservative2america
Mm.
at gmail.com. You can find that in our bio. But back to what I was saying, man, there is a bad mood on the rise
Yeah.
for the Republican Party, for our economy, for the American working family, and for
Yeah.
just the everyday American trying to get by. Luke?
Well, you know, like you, Cole, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative, but and I agree with a lot of things that Trump has been doing. Since his presidency, since he started being president and everything. But some of these things, I mean, who came up with this? The 50-year mortgage plan. Do you know what years in 50 years from now? 2075. That's when you would be done with the 50-year mortgage plan. 2075. I mean, that's insane. So I don't really understand this particular idea here. And like you said, the working class, the working man, is who these elected officials are supposed to represent.
Yeah.
That's their job, you know. Um, and I know,
Not just the working class. Yeah, they're elected to represent those people, but most of all, they're elected
right.
to
Well, yeah,
represent the American. They're elected to
of
represent
course.
the American family.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I
Then
understood. Yeah.
right. But yeah, that's who they're elected to represent. Anything that might, hurt those people and be worse of a financial burden on them is not a good idea in my mind.
Yeah, no, something I like to bring up too to our viewers watching. I don't believe everything that comes out from the White House, and I'm not just like this guy who praises everything that Donald Trump says and believes it's the gospel truth. No, there have been
Right.
things that the White House have been putting out that is in a way they're trying to spin it like every political administration would do, like every person in politics typically does.
Yeah.
But I want to make it very clear that the White House on the Laura Ingraham show, you can watch it if you want to. I think it was yesterday or maybe it was a few days ago. But anyways, it was brought up the fact of how the economy is worse. It is. It's worse now. Um,
It's not getting much better.
it's not getting much better. Where it has got better, it's
Yeah.
not by much.
No.
Gas went down, but now it's back up. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just, as a conservative voice, as a Republican advocate, man, right now is it hard for man, is it hard to be a conservative advocate right now? Not to advocate for conservative
Mm.
principles, but to advocate on behalf of some of these policies that the Republican Party is pushing through. That the White House, a lot of it, you can contribute to the White House. I mean, yeah, I like Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I dislike Donald Trump. I think that a lot of his policies are great. Just there are some that I cannot get past that I don't like, and I think that are going to cause Republicans some trouble in the future. I hope that I'm wrong. Um, I really do. I hope that everything that Donald Trump does goes through and it's great. And I hope that our country succeeds. And I hope that our economy turns around. But looking at it right now, standing from where we are, standing from the point of view that we are on the mountain, or I guess you could say in the economic valley, but where we're standing in the valley, I don't see any bright days ahead. I only see deeper valley, a deeper and darker valley. But I hope that I am wrong. I do hope. I hope that I can look back on this. I can think about how stupid I was to think that. Yeah. Well, Luke, I'd like to thank you for coming on this
Of
podcast
course.
today. But in
Thank you.
closing, I ask these questions to our viewers. Will Trump sign the Epstein Files? Will the Epstein Files be all they were hyped up to be? Will the abuse of SNAP benefits finally stop? Will Republicans appeal and win in Texas? Will 50-year mortgages become a thing of the future? Well, only time will tell, but I will bring you news commentary here first from the best perspective, the conservative perspective. I'm Uncle Holcomb, and this is Conservative to America.